With all this information that you get, what you want to do is have someone, like all these people that I met with yesterday and we're sitting in the room with yesterday, is you want to design a very comprehensive security plan, a soup to nuts plan to handle a crisis in the day-to-day that you have. Access control systems, the security at people's houses, your evacuation and emergency plan, which we're going to talk a little bit about, and then your business continuity plan. You've got one here in the United States. You probably have a security plan here in the United States. It makes sense to have one over wherever it is you're going to go, especially if that destination is higher threat. It's going to be a much more in-depth plan, and the reality is a lot of people aren't going to want to talk about it. And sometimes it's very difficult for people from my side of the house to go to people on the other side of the house and explain what it is we think we want to have. I'm involved in a program, in a master's program, where one of the things that we're doing is, as security professionals, learning how to talk to business professionals in a language that business professionals better understand, and not just come down with the doom and the gloom and the awful, but come out with real solutions, to come out with these comprehensive plans that the CEOs understand. And that's very important to have when you build these kind of things. Just some things that you probably want to include, some just very specific topics in your comprehensive plan, your corporate crisis plan, is a political crisis. Certainly if you're going to go into an area where there's a lot of political instability. Most of the countries in Africa right now are not known for their political stability. Some countries in Asia, some countries in Latin America. And that doesn't necessarily mean a change in the regime. There might be a significant amount of protests in the area. Do they protest on the boulevard that you're looking to put your business? If they do, you need to include that in your plan. What do they do when they protest? Do they just show up and camp out, or do they throw stuff? And what do they throw when they throw it? That all needs to be in that plan. Natural disasters, volcanoes, hurricanes, Hurricane Ike, fresh in my mind, and any type of disaster you might have that's weather-related, geologic, whatever. Those things need to be taken into account. Evacuations is a specific and important thing to think about. If one of these events that you are looking at takes place, how do you get out? Who are you going to get out? And what are you going to do when it comes time to do that? And one of the questions that always gets asked in an evacuation, in my experience, one of the things that always happens is the company has said, we're going to evacuate these 5 people from this location because this situation has gotten really bad. And then 2 hours later they say, well, what somebody always says, well, what about the locals that we know and love and been working with us for months and months, and we care about them? And they should. They're parts of the family too. Well, we never thought about that. As a provider, I need to know who's leaving, and I need to know who's leaving pretty quick, because I have to make the proper decisions. If the plan that the security director is operating off of doesn't include the other 25 people, and we're planning on evacuating 5 people and their families, you can see how this grows really fast. And we go from having a couple of vans to a lot more in a lot more places, and suddenly the aircraft that we thought was big enough to get these people on, or the bus or the boat, is nowhere near big enough. And now we have to bring in something else or something else. And again, it all adds to the cost. The more you plan ahead of time, the better off you're going to be down the road. Kidnap and ransom is an issue and they do extortion. Now we're talking about piracy in the high seas, and we're involved in all of these things at ASI. Not particularly my division, but my counterpart, Dan Johnson, is in charge of that. This is a real threat in some places. Some places it's not. You need to have in my opinion, you need to have a proper crisis plan in an area where kidnapping or piracy or extortion is a threat that addresses this in the right manner. How do you do that? Get with the professionals that understand what they're doing and know how to write these plans, know what to do. Some of kidnap and ransom, and because I've been on the outside looking in, it seems very counterintuitive at first. And you look and you think, wow, but then they explain it and it makes sense. But I wouldn't know that in the middle of a crisis. And one of the things we talk about are that if you're a scuba diver, anybody's heard this, though, when you're in your class, they say, plan your dive and dive your plan. And the reason is because before you were underwater and you decided to chase that really cool looking fish, you knew you had X amount of time to spend underwater before you were risking your health. The same thing in a crisis. Write it when your heads are cooler, when you're reasonable, when you're thinking about the right kinds of things. when you're in a panic, when you're in trouble, things get cloudy, things don't make sense. That's when sometimes people don't make such good decisions, and we need to remember that. When you go overseas, when your travelers go overseas, you know, I said in this briefing, like I said, don't lose your faith in humanity. There's a lot to that. We listened all day about this and that and this and that, and it wasn't very uplifting. I'll be completely honest with you. But the reality is, if you've got the right protections in place and you've done your homework ahead of time, you don't need to be afraid. You know, fear doesn't help, and you need to be wary, and that's okay. Be cautious. Don't be silly, and don't be afraid. If you put the right protections in place, your people are going to come home safe, and that's what we like to do. Number one rule for me, if you don't do it at home, whatever that is, don't do it overseas. For some reason, some business travelers lose their mind when they go overseas because over there it doesn't count. Probably does, and it's probably somewhere you don't need to be right now. I'll let you guys decide what that is on your own. And when you get there, enjoy where you are. Learn about your destination, especially if you're there for business. You're there to do work. You want to find out where you're going. You want to meet the people you're going to meet, and you want to learn about it and make some money. Do those things while you're overseas. Just to give you an idea of the intelligence division that works in my side of the house, we have 15 analysts and watch officers that work. The watch officers work at night and weekends. God bless them. They answer the phone in the middle of the night, so I don't have to. We divide our country up or the world up into regions. The analysts handle specific regions based upon their background, based upon maybe languages they speak, to be able to gather that information. Much of it comes in a different language, and so it's useful to have that capability when they're reading those newspapers in whatever it is, Tagalog or some other language that I don't speak. And then we have the database. I talked about the third-party provider when I started. The database that we provide is called WorldWatch. This is some of the kind of give you a brief idea of what's in the WorldWatch package. And we do a global monitoring system, which if you have a crisis that's what we call change the threat in a location, or something that you need to know, something that maybe a bombing or a volcano or a protest that's significantly affecting business travel, whatever that might be, we send out a global monitoring that you can receive on your phone. Oftentimes, I've spoken to directors of security in the middle of the night and tell them what's going on, and they say thank you and hang up the phone and deal with it on their own. But they've been notified to the point that oftentimes I'd see them in the daytime and I said, Tom, you can't talk to me now. It's in the middle of the day. You need to come see me tonight. I'm dressed. This just gives you an idea of some of the things that we do, and this is a picture of WorldWatch from just the database and all, and a little bit of an idea of all the information that we hold in WorldWatch. It's a magnificent tool and a great gateway as you start down the due diligence path. It's not going to tell you everything you want to know, but it certainly gives you a great idea of where to start. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass this back to Bruce.